Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Lulu Essie podcast, where we build mental fitness, confidence, and self-love by following your own blueprint on your own terms at your own pace. I'm your host, Lulu Essie, and these are honest, unedited conversations about the real inner work of becoming who you truly are. And I invite you to open your heart and your mind as we get into today's conversation. I'd like to start with a question, and I invite you to really let it settle inside you. When was the last time you chose yourself? I'm talking about when last did you choose yourself on a random day? Not during some life-altering decision, not in a moment that would make a good story. When did you last notice what you actually needed and then give it to yourself? When did you last say no to something that was costing you? And when did you say yes to something that was truly lifting you up? If you're finding it hard to answer that, I'm here to help you figure out why. Because today I'm talking about something that I think quietly blocks people from building real self-love, perhaps more than almost anything else. And I don't think we talk about it enough. I'd like to talk about just that, and that is self-abandonment. Some of you may remember back in episode 22, I shared something that came from a very dark place. I found myself repeating 5 words in one of the hardest periods I've had, and those words were, I will not abandon you. Those 5 words were a lifeline to me then. They came from crisis. And what I've come to understand since then is that self-abandonment doesn't only live in the hard weeks. It lives in the ordinary, unremarkable moments where we override ourselves so quietly, so habitually, that we don't even notice we're doing it. Today, I'm going to build the full picture for you, because you deserve to understand what self-abandonment actually is, what it means for you, and very importantly, what it is costing you. Self-abandonment is subtle. That's what makes it so tricky. And this is because when we abandon ourselves, it usually feels like we're being considerate. It feels like we're being flexible. It feels like we're being a good person. It happens quietly when we're exhausted, absolutely depleted, and yet we push through anyway because our list isn't done or because stopping feels like we have to earn it. And honestly, we don't feel like we've earned it. That right there is self-abandonment. It happens when you don't want to make things uncomfortable, so you stay quiet in a conversation, even though you have something real to say, something you believe in, something that matters to you. You stay quiet not because you feel you are wrong. You stay quiet because the conversation feels fragile, and you decide, as you often do, that your voice can wait. That right there is self-abandonment in action. It happens when somebody asks for something and your whole body contracts. Your gut says no, but you say yes anyway. Because disappointing that person feels unbearable in a way that betraying yourself somehow feels easier. That's self-abandonment. Self-abandonment hides in plain sight. It wears the mask of kindness and humility and being low maintenance. And because it looks so much like virtue from the outside, we very seldom question it. And here's what's key for you to understand. This pattern didn't appear out of nowhere. At some point, probably early in your life, you learned that it was safer to make yourself smaller than to take up space. You learned that it was much safer to stay quiet than to speak your mind. You learned that other people's needs mattered more than yours, that love had conditions, and keeping yourself quiet was the easiest way for you to keep the peace. That was intelligent at the time. That was adapting. And now it just doesn't belong in your life anymore. I'm going to keep this simple because I think we often overcomplicate it. Every time you abandon yourself, every time you stay silent and ignore your voice, every time you override what you feel or ignore what you need, your body registers it. Your body takes notice of those moments, and it takes notice with something quiet. It's a tension that settles in your chest, a tiredness that doesn't lift after a good night's sleep, a low-level resentment you can't quite explain because it seems like everything is fine. That's not you being sensitive. That's your body being honest with you when your mind is working very hard to be polite. What is so key to realize is that over time, when self-abandonment becomes your default, the signal gets harder for you to hear. The connection to what you actually want, what you actually feel, what you actually need starts to fade. It fades until you can hardly hear it, hardly feel it. Not because the signal is gone, but because you've trained yourself not to listen to it. And that right there is the real cost, the radical, damaging cost of self-abandonment. It's not one moment, it's a slow, quiet fading of your relationship with yourself. It's like your relationship with yourself disappears. And the thing about the kind of self-love that we talk about on this podcast is that you cannot build it on a foundation of leaving yourself behind. You cannot build anything lasting on abandoning yourself. You just can't. Self-love isn't a feeling you'll arrive at once you've done enough work, been on the right workshop or course, or listened to enough podcasts like this one. No. Self-love is built in the accumulation of small moments to stay with yourself. The choice is not to abandon yourself, to show up for yourself. It's built on you being the one person who doesn't disappear when things get inconvenient or uncomfortable. Here's what I'd like to offer you today. Last year, in a week that I hope never to repeat, I found myself saying 5 words over and over to myself. They weren't eloquent, they weren't wise, they were desperate, and they were real. And that is precisely why they worked. I will not abandon you. I whispered those words to myself between meetings. I said them silently when I thought I was about to fall apart. I held onto them when I had nothing else to hold. I said them to myself crying in the shower. I said them to myself when desperation held me so tightly in its grip I couldn't breathe. Since then, I've thought a lot about those words and what they actually do. And this is what I've come to understand. When you say them, when you truly mean them from the core of you, when you feel them and you say them, you're not fixing anything. But more importantly, you are in that moment making a choice, a tiny, real, specific choice to stay with yourself in a moment where everything in you wants to disappear and wants to crawl away and hide from everything that is happening. That is the practice. It sounds simple, but the work is to say it and mean it and then to follow through with action that shows you that you will not abandon yourself. This is about our relationship with ourselves, nobody else. The next time you feel yourself about to override what your body is asking for, about to swallow your voice, about to say yes when the answer is no, in that moment, I'd like you to try something. Pause, take a moment, a breath. Place your hand on your heart. Take one small breath and say it. Say it silently if you need to. I will not abandon you. That's it. 5 words and a breath. It may sound too simple to matter, to make any real difference. I promise you it isn't. Because what you're doing in that moment is you're interrupting a pattern that may have been running for most of your life. You're consciously choosing yourself, maybe for the first time ever. And you're choosing yourself quietly, powerfully, not perfectly, not loudly, just right now, just this once. And this once is enough. This once is the beginning, and then this once becomes once more, and then once more again, and that is how you build. One small choice at a time. Self-abandonment is quiet, so quiet that it creeps in without you even noticing it's there. That's how it survived so long in so many of us. It's hidden inside everything we were taught was good and kind and unselfish. And I'm not here to tell you that kindness is wrong or that other people's needs don't matter. They absolutely do matter. But your needs matter too. They matter equally. And they matter without apology. Remember, 5 words. I will not abandon you. Say them to yourself today, even if it feels awkward or cringe or silly. Say them, not because you're in a dark place, because you're on a random, ordinary day. And random, ordinary days is exactly where self-love gets built, or where it gets quietly broken apart. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. It literally takes a couple of seconds. And that is how these conversations travel and make a difference in people's lives. And if you haven't subscribed yet or followed, I'd love for you to do that now. I'm also on YouTube where you can find this and every other episode, as well as my shorts. What comes from the heart reaches the heart. And today, with a deep knowing that self-love is possible for you, it is right there in your choice to say, I will not abandon you. It is right there in every tiny choice you make to choose yourself over and over again, especially when it feels hard to do that. This comes straight from my heart to yours. Until next time, I will not abandon you. and I hold you in a place where you will not abandon yourself.